Okay, now we're going to talk about expressions, which is where the power of being a technical director starts being able to let you push Maya in really cool ways. So I showed you earlier how you can, let me create some spheres, how you can use the connection editor to have one object drive the attribute of another. So here's some other stuff that we might be able to do. So before we had a locator driving the sphere, and I put a new attribute on the locator which would drive the height of the sphere. So let's try some other interesting stuff. We've shown that we can do that there with directly connecting up an attribute so that the height on the sphere was the exact same value as the height on, or the locator attribute height. So here's some other interesting things that we might want to do. Let's say we always want this sphere to be 4 units above the translate y value of this sphere. So you can't really do that through animating it or by connecting the attribute, because the attributes are going to be the same if you connect them up. So one interesting way that you can, that Maya exposes stuff to you, is by letting you write an expression on an object. So let's try doing something like that. So we have pSphere 2 here, and we have pSphere 1 here. So with this sphere selected, let me go to Window, Animation Editors, Expression Editor. So let's say I want to write an expression that controls the translate y value of this sphere. So I can just going to select the translate y value here. So here's how you write an expression. With pSphere 1 and translate y selected, I can just copy this with a Control C, and inside my main expression here, I'm going to paste this. And I want pSphere 1 dot translate y, so the translate y attribute of pSphere 1, to equal pSphere 2 dot translate y, semicolon, and create. So once I do that, you can see that in the channel box, the translate y value turns purple, which indicates that it's being driven by something else. And when I select this and start moving it up and down, I get exactly the same as when I did the attribute connection earlier on. So now I want to make this a little more interesting. So going back here and closing it, I can see that this is being driven by this node expression 1. And if I load up the outliner, I see that the expression doesn't live here, which means that it's basically a node that's hidden behind the scenes. It's not actually part of the hierarchy of my scene. So I can actually display my expression node by going to display and turning off DAG objects only. Now DAG stands for directed acyclic graph, and that basically for the most part indicates that DAG nodes are basically nodes that contribute to the hierarchy of the scene. So it's stuff like the transform nodes and then any final shape nodes. So all the stuff in between and all this other nodes that are driving things are hidden in this default display mode. So if I uncheck DAG objects only, then I see a bunch of other stuff that's in my scene. So I can select on expression 1 here, I'll close that and hit Control A to bring up the attribute editor. So I see my expression here. And so a way I can edit that is going back to Window, Animation Editors, Expression Editor. And I can filter by expression name. And when I click on that, the attribute comes up. So let's say I want to do more interesting than having the translate y's be equal, because I can do that a little more easily by doing the connect attribute, sorry. So something else I could do is say the translate y of pSphere 1, I want it to be 4 plus the translate y of pSphere 2. So when I hit edit, all of a sudden this guy jumps right here, and now it's always going to be 4 units above this sphere right here. So I can also move this independently, and as I move it around, it's only driving the translate y value of this. So this would be interesting where I could do something like change translate y to be translate x, edit, and now as I move this one up and down, it's causing the other sphere to go right and left. So that's just a little intro into what you can do with expressions. You can look in the documentation for a little more power, and yeah, so that's a little basic one. So another interesting way I can use expressions is to drive stuff that would be really hard to do interactively. So let's say I create a sphere here, and I put it here. So let's say in a scene that we're given, an animator is supposed to make this sphere move around in an exact circle. Now that would be somewhat difficult to do using just pure keyframe animation. I mean, the way that they would do that is basically move this into place, key it at frame 1, then move it somewhere else, frame 8, frame 16, they would want it around here. But you'll notice that it's not describing a perfect circular path, because it's basically moving from one point to another. Now you can dive into the graph editor and start tweaking this, but it ends up being a huge pain. So let me delete that and create a new sphere. So here's a way that I could do it using expressions. So let me just drop this guy down right here, and I'll go to Windows, Animation Editor, Expression Editor. Okay, so this one is pSphere 1 again. So if I wanted it to describe a perfect circle, I want it to move along on the x and z axis. So I know I'm going to have to write an expression that involves the translate x and translate z of this sphere. So I can say pSphere1 dot translate x equals something, and pSphere1 dot translate z equals something else. Okay, so the question is, what is this something else? Now, I'm not going to go into a full review of trigonometry or anything here, but I know that I can use sine and cosine to describe a circular motion. So inside this expression, something I can do is say, I want the translate x to be sine of time, and time is going to be my actual actually not the frame number, but it's actually going to be the time in seconds. And then I want my translate z to be cosine of time. Now a reference to all the math functions you can use in expressions is inside the Maya documentation. But if I just do that and I say create, let me move this off to the side somewhere. And if I come back and I'm going to increase my playback range to be 200, hit enter. Now when I hit play now, you can see that my sphere is describing a circular motion. But let's say the director comes along and says, well, I want it to be bigger. Now if I had hand keyframe that would be a pain. But now, because I have this driven as an expression, I can just multiply the sine value by like 10 and the cosine value by 10 as well. Hit edit, move this aside, and now as I play back, I have a bigger circle that it's describing. So let's say we go, well, I want it to go a lot faster. So then I can go inside the sine and multiply the time by a certain value. So let's say